All right, wonderful. I'll do a quick intro. I'm Eric Hopp, University Challenge Committee Chair. So happy to have you guys. Really excited about these two really dynamic sites in Minneapolis that we're really thrilled to see what you guys can dream up on them. We're joined here today with Peter and Chris. Peter is here as a representative on behalf of the 1100 Washington site, and Chris is here on behalf of the 1200 Washington site. So really excited again about these two dynamic opportunities, and look forward to hearing a little bit more from Peter and Chris, just kind of about the sites, and then we'll open it up for Q&A after we hear from Peter and Chris. Let's see. Peter, do you want to kick things off?
I sure can. Do you want me to share some of the marketing materials, or what information have the students been supplied with yet?
Yeah, they've seen some of the stuff. We sent them the site packet. So yeah, whatever visuals you want to use, you can certainly use. And certainly if it's helpful, if you want to just pull up like a Google map aerial and then just add some narrative, that'd be perfect.
Sure. Let me give me a second to share my
screen. You should be able to share your screen.
Let me do that. Okay. Can everybody see this okay?
Yep.
Great. Thanks everybody for joining the call. It's kind of fun to be a part of this. Quite a while ago when I was at St. Thomas, I was involved in the University Challenge when it was kind of just starting. It's a great project for the students to be a part of. It's a nice partnership with NAIOP. It's a great capstone course in many ways and a good transition, I think, from what you learn in the classroom into the real world, applying some of the textbook definitions to real world, applying the analytics, the metrics, and the things you've learned in class to real life development opportunities. Chris Gliedman and I have known each other for a long time. We've always been at different firms, but done a number of potential transactions together. I think we've gotten a few done as well, a few over the goal line. I've done a lot of work with Eric Hopt and his team at Ackerberg, and then also Joe Mahoney, who's on this panel. I don't know if he's on the call today, but at Opus is a good friend of mine, and done a lot of work with Joe. So we were happy to put 1100 Washington into this project as a site to consider, along with some sort of theoretical acquisition of 1200 Washington as well. 1100 Washington is a unique, what we're calling a covered or carried land play opportunity. For those of you who are not familiar with Minneapolis, I'll try and give you just a brief overview of the site. There's a few aerials on here as well that'll kind of give you a better understanding of where the site sits. Some of this may be covered by Chris Gliedman as well, but I'll start with a few different things just from an aerial perspective. Obviously, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but you can see the US Bank Stadium here. This is the downtown Minneapolis Central Business District. It is buffered by 35W, 94, you'll see here, 94 wraps the belt line this way. We have Washington Avenue, the main thoroughfare or artery connecting to downtown Minneapolis, and then 65, the bridge here, as well as Hennepin Avenue here. Stone Arch Bridge is currently under construction, major renovations happening related to that project there. A couple of unique things with this site. Number one is its proximity to 35W and the access to 35W. If you count along Washington Avenue, there are 27, I believe, stoplights that go all the way up to the North Loop here. So if a person lives or works in this area and they need to get anywhere in the South, West, or East Metro, they have one stoplight and they are on to 35. It's a very convenient access point in and out of downtown. It also is only 4 blocks or so from Park and as well as 5th and Marquette, which is kind of up in this area where you can get direct access into the core of the central business district. This area here is called Gold Medal Park. This was a park that's been constructed over the last 15 years or so. And along this, you've had major development that's happened in this corridor of downtown, the Gold Medal Park district. This is a separate and distinct area from the central business district, where there are a lot of office properties and commercial uses. This really is a strong residential corridor through this area. A number of major projects have happened in this area over the last 15 years, most of them in the multifamily realm, whether it's owned or leased multifamily with a commercial component in this area. Let me see if I can bring back. This is a different angle of the site here. You can see US Bank Stadium here. This is 35. Here's your access point. This is the 1200 Washington site that Chris Gliedman will talk with you about. And this is our 1100 parcel here. 1100 is unique in that we have access off of 11th and a direct corner on Washington Avenue as well. You have a number of projects that have happened in this area that you'll be able to use for research pieces. 11 condos, 11 condominiums is probably the most notable recent construction. The Legacy Here project, which was done by Shamrock Development. There is a great case study about this, the Legacy project. If some of the students have further questions about Legacy or 11, please feel free to connect with me after this. We can talk in more detail about these projects. Bridgewater Lofts was one of the first projects, kind of redevelopment projects in this area. And a lot of these projects were spurred by the Guthrie, the Mill City Museum, and then the access to Gold Medal Park and the river frontage. I'm going to be a little political in a second, but Minneapolis has missed the mark in many ways on utilizing the Mississippi River frontage. Most of Minneapolis has been built kind of over in this area off the map. And if you look at other major cities that have direct access to the riverway, Minneapolis can and is starting to do a much better job of utilizing the river and the parkways along the river. This is an opportunity to have direct access to the river, the parkway, those types of areas. On this site, there is currently about a 40,000 square foot building. This building is leased half or so by the University of Minnesota. It's actually their epidemiology office and laboratory. Part of the reason we're not touring the building today. The first floor is currently vacant. This property has been owned by the owner for about 20 years. The University of Minnesota has a lease on the second floor. There's a little over 2.5 years of lease term remaining. I'll pull up an aerial of this package is what we use for marketing, by the way. This is a confidential offering memorandum. I don't know how much the students are familiar with what we're doing from a marketing perspective, but this is a confidential offering memorandum. So before you send it to anybody, please let me know or get my approval, I guess. Let's see here. Here are a couple of high-level details. The current lease expires in 2025. They do have some options to renew the lease, but I believe that they would be interested. They're pretty flexible, I guess. The University of Minnesota has given us the directive that they would vacate the site early if need be. University of Minnesota is rolling a lot of their leased real estate into owned real estate at the directive of the Board of Regents. The site itself is about 1.6 acres, 70,000 square feet or so. Current parking ratio is about 3 per 1,000. But I think the thing to point out about this property is the current use is maybe not the highest and best use for the site. It's technically an industrial use in an area that is really guided for redevelopment and much higher density. I would recommend that the students look into the 2040 plan with the city of Minneapolis. I would recommend that they look into the built form 20 overlay district as well as the residential overlay district. Some of those things have been, I believe, sent to NAIOP. And if the schools have further questions, we're happy to share with them some of what we've learned. But really the unique thing about this sort of a development opportunity is how the developer would be creative to work within the parameters set forth by the city. As Eric will tell you, that is some of the brilliance and creativity that developers get to use. The city will tell you what they think should be on this site and why and how much of it. And the developer will need to be creative to get as much on the site as possible and be able to deliver the best product on the site. The end of our packet is really, and this is pretty typical for most marketing pieces, Chris Gliedman will share this with you as well, but we do share oftentimes some of the key metrics with the related to Minneapolis. This is for buyers that may be from another market or investors that may be from another market. With that said, that's kind of the what I'll call the 5-minute overview. I'm happy to answer some questions, but a lot of this is really the students working to figure out the diligence piece of this, calling the city, calling developers, understanding what could be built on this site and the costs associated with that. So with that said, I'm happy to answer some questions or to let Chris speak to his site a little bit.
Thanks, Peter. Really appreciate that. Maybe let's let Chris talk, and then we'll open it up for broad questions, and we can handle that.
Great.
Hey, everybody. Good afternoon. As expected, Peter did a great job kind of talking about the broad market. And I just also want to open by echoing that, it's great to be working with you guys. And the NIAP, University Challenge, nothing that I participated in. I was a liberal arts major in college, so I didn't actually have any practical education in my time. But it's certainly something that as a real estate professional, it certainly has a great deal of cachet. I've been involved in a couple of projects as the broker, working with students on their projects, and it's always it's very cool to have been a part of it in the past, and then also this year to actually be, that it's a project that I'm actually not only involved with as a broker, but actually I'm a part owner in, and we're kind of wrestling with what to do with it. So this is a very, from our perspective, a very real world application, and excited to see what you guys come up with. I'll jump maybe a little bit less on the broader market, because I think Peter touched on a whole bunch of stuff, and maybe just give you a brief overview on the building, its history itself, and sort of the challenges that we have currently. Let me share the screen. And then I'd also say, if there's questions as I go, just feel free to holler them out and stop me. So this is a quick little property brochure that we've got on the building. I wanted to show you this because it's really two buildings over time. If you see my cursor here, this masonry wall, that's original to the building when it was constructed as a print shop in 1941. And then in the early 80s, the University of Minnesota, in combination with the Minneapolis Community Development Authority, redeveloped the building by adding, basically adding a new facade, which is this big glass atrium that you see, and then adding the top 2 stories to make it a 3-story building. And so that was done, like I said, in the early mid 80s, with the idea of the University of Minnesota using this as their computer science department. So over time, they had raised floor, mission critical data center space, about 20,000 square feet, and then all the necessary infrastructure to run it. Pretty intense cooling and mechanical equipment. And then the University of Minnesota over time since it was sort of a proof of concept and very successful, they decided to actually spin that business off in the early 90s and sell it. And so they sold the business, but kept the real estate and operated the building as a landlord. And certainly not exactly in their wheelhouse for, for core competency. And over time, they basically had one tenant occupying a 200,000 square foot gross building area, only in about a third of it, and they didn't know what to do with the rest of it. They brought us in around 2004, 2005 to just start brainstorming and talking about ideas. And the more we got into it, the more excited me and my partners got about solving the problem. But halfway through it, it's like, instead of marketing it for sale, why don't we just buy it? Which is what we ended up doing in June of 2006. We did a bunch of deferred maintenance, corrected a bunch of the things that had kind of been ignored, and then got to work on backfilling the building. We got it up to about 90-something% leased. And then here in the last couple of years, the major anchor tenant was the data center operator, and they migrated their stuff to the cloud. And they've left the data center as well as some other ancillary space. So I'm going to go ahead and just pull up, shut this down, but I'll just give you some brief overview stats about the building. It's a full city block. It's about 2.3 acres of land. Here, let me do this. The total building square footage is about 201,000 square feet of gross building area, of which about 120,000 square feet of that is actually leasable. And the reason for that is the first floor of the building is actually indoor parking garage. So you can see here on this shot here, that's our surface lot. We've got probably about 45 parking stalls out front. And at the very far east end, right here where my cursor is, there's a little drive aisle, and the first floor is basically all indoor heated garage parking for about 135 stalls or so. So the big thing is the building itself's got about 200,000 square feet of gross building area. Only about 120,000 square feet is leasable. And we've got about, right now, 50,000 square feet of vacant space. And, Peter touched on a bunch of the multifamily housing that has gone up and around us in the last 15 years. When we bought it, much of that stuff was just basically bare parking lots that was used as event parking for the Metrodome when it was still the Metrodome. And our thought really was, with the anchor tenant, which was the data center group, if we renewed them, great. If not, we probably would tear the building down and go build our own condo or partner up with somebody to do some kind of multifamily housing. So, here we are now, fast forward 17 years, and we're still kind of wrestling with those same discussions. So this gives you an idea, and I think we sent over a packet with a bunch of the floor plans and targeted vacancies. We've got this is 40,000 square feet on the second floor of the building. So this is really, this sits on top of the indoor parking garage. This block here is the raised floor computer data center space, or the former computer data center space. It still has all the infrastructure in place, which includes the air conditioning units called crack units that supply cooling, because they use a tremendous amount of electricity and then generate a tremendous amount of heat. The ceiling heights here are very high. This is clear to underneath the deck, so there's no third floor above it. So it's a 20-foot clear, 20,000 square foot block of space. Also, it's got about 1.7 megawatt generator that backs up the entire building and the data center. So for mission critical purposes, if it goes down, it'll continue to run. And in addition to that block, we've got another 20,000 square feet around it of vacant space. And then up on 3, we've got a remaining 5,800. But, our thought really is, open to looking at ideas on redevelopment. Obviously, the tech infrastructure is fantastic. but it's clear that it's a legacy center that needs a huge amount of investment to have it continue to run that way into the foreseeable future. And frankly, the market for that stuff, here's some photos of the data center. The market for that stuff right now is just on such a huge scale that 20,000 square feet in Minneapolis it's kind of a legacy thing that not a lot of folks are seeing a lot of value in. So with that, that's pretty much what I have. Just a quick share, and obviously open to answering whatever questions and jump into it if you'd like.
Wonderful. Thank you both. Any of the students have any questions?
Will this market research report be shared with the schools?
Yes, if you guys don't have this, Steph and I will work on getting you all these materials.
If we wanted to reach out to Peter or Chris, how would we go about contacting them, or would you guys be able or be willing to share your contacts?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and I'm going to put my cell phone and email address right into the chat now. And I would invite anyone who wants to connect up, just reach out whenever it's convenient, and I'll get you whatever you need or chat about whatever you'd like. Doesn't even have to be about real estate. It could be about the Vikings or the Yankees, whatever you want to talk about.
And we can send out that contact info when we send out the link to the video from this meeting too.
Yeah, and hey gang, this is John Dahl. I joined a little late, I apologize. I think that I'm meant to be an expert here, but I've got about 15 million square feet of listings around the Twin Cities and quite a bit downtown. But yeah, if anyone wants to reach out to me, I'm here to help.
I would recommend that to everybody in this, everybody on this call. I worked with John previously when I was at Jones Lang LaSalle. He's super knowledgeable downtown and about everything office and everything in the Twin Cities. Also, Chris and I are available as well. We've all been in the business for about 20 years or longer. So whatever we can do to help out, we're happy to answer questions. And it's always fun for us to talk to the students. So it's a fun project. I recommend taking advantage of the opportunities to connect with the professionals in the business locally as you go through it.
I see a question from Jeff over Marquette about structural stuff. We did look at that for 1200. Let me, and that's certainly something I can share with everyone. Let me go, like I said, we've got about 18 years of history on this one. I know at some point we did look at structure. I can't remember if it was exterior to add on top or to redo the existing and kind of add more mezzanine and stuff above our parking deck. But let me see what I can find, and I'll be happy to share that with everyone.
I'll do the same thing on 1100. I know that there have been discussions about adding additional floors or additional density above the existing structure. I'll report back on the findings of that.
Question from St. Thomas. Is there any way that we could gain access to the buildings throughout this process, or is it mainly just drive-bys or walking around the current site?
Yeah, I'd be happy to meet with folks to get through the building, to get through 1200. Obviously, I can't speak for Peter. But yeah, there's an open invitation. I'd like to do it if we could do it in, for folks who are interested and have the ability, because obviously not everyone's in town. From my perspective, I'd like to do it in sort of bigger groups, but for sure, I can yeah, we can get people through anytime.
I'm happy to get people through the first floor, the vacancy of 1100. The University of Minnesota, being that it's an epidemiology laboratory, is not too keen on visitors. And I'm sure everybody can understand that. So what I would say is we can certainly do a tour of the property. But again, I'd like to probably put it together in one large group, or if people want to do it remotely, I could do a video tour of the property on site if people would like to do that.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, I see the next question from Marquette. Are we able to make contact with the city officials? Yes. So Meg with the city of Minneapolis has offered to be an expert. So her contact information is on the experts page of the site packet.
I'm here too.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you, Meg.
Hi.
Thank you, Meg.
Let's
There's a
see.
question. There's a question from Kelly, I believe. It's, could the experts on the call introduce themselves and just share expertise about their involvement on the project? Sure. I'm Peter Tanis. I'm with Newmark. I'm a commercial real estate broker. I've been in the business for, I think, 17 or 18 years. I don't remember which. I'm at a firm called Newmark, and I'm a capital markets and investment sale broker. Most of the work we do is in fully leased or fully occupied properties, and selling those to investors, which can be smaller private equity deals all the way up to large institutional transactions. We sell office, industrial, and a couple of guys on our team are very good at retail transactions as well. Most of our transactions are in the 2 to 70 million range.
And I apologize, I didn't do an intro. I'm Chris Gliedman. I'm with CBRE. I'm vice president. My focus is on office sales and primarily leasing. Most of the work that I do is East Metro, which includes the Midway market, which is how we came across this opportunity initially back in the early 2000s with the University of Minnesota, because the Midway market basically runs right up into the U of M. So we've had a great opportunity to work with those guys over the years. I've been in the business I've been with CB in my current position for about 24 years now. And like I said, this is a building we actually own personally. There's 3 other partners, 2 former debt and equity guys at CB, Doug Seiler and Murray Kornberg, and then the 4th partner, the managing partner, Mike Murnovich, is also my business partner at CB. And he and I have worked together for over 20 years.
Yeah, and I can go next. John Dahl here. I'm a managing director at JLL. I'm on the agency side of leasing, so we represent landlords. Pretty much all of our listings are kind of Class A, large buildings for the most part. I think maybe we might have some buildings that are 50,000 square feet or kind of on the small side, but generally larger buildings. Been in the business 24 years, actually graduated with Kelly. But yeah, just here to help. We're geography wise, I've got a pretty big team, but we're spread out across the metro. I'd say we have probably 6+ million square feet downtown, maybe 7 million square feet downtown, and the rest in the burbs, but just here to help.
I can go next. My name is Trevor Martinez. I'm a developer at Sherman Associates. Sherman Associates is a developer that's based out of Minneapolis, but we have regional offices that have development staff in them in Des Moines and in Denver and in like the St. Pete Beach and Tampa Bay area down in Florida. We have probably about 600 staff members and have probably developed in the range of 10,000 or so housing units. We're predominantly a housing developer, but we do have 5 hotels, as well as about 600,000 square feet of commercial space, excluding the old Wells Fargo Network Operations Center that's on 2nd in Washington, a few blocks away. We do a lot of development in downtown Minneapolis proper. A number of the land comps and developments that are noted and called out in the various reports that I think that were just shared are Sherman and related projects. We're probably going to be developing somewhere in the range of 500 to 1,000 units in downtown Minneapolis over the next couple of years.
I can go next. I'm Meg McMahon. I'm the planning director for the city of Minneapolis. So if you have questions about the regulatory framework that would pertain to the property, obviously we mentioned the Minneapolis 2040 plan, and that lays out the future land use guidance for the property as well as the built form. And then we have built form regulations. We're in a little bit of a gray area right now. We haven't completed our rezoning that's required of us after having adopted the comprehensive plan. So we actually are in the process of rezoning every property in the city, and that should be completed kind of April, May timeframe. So it shouldn't affect your project at all, other than to say that we are in the process of bringing our zoning into alignment with our comprehensive plan. So if you're looking at the site, it is currently zoned industrial. That is not the future guidance. So you'll want to just assume that a rezoning will be needed as part of the process, and you know, the city's been taking those through. So if you have any, I guess, more detailed questions about the regulations that would, you know, restrict this property, there's also a couple of overlays that apply here. I'd be happy to talk those through with you.
Well, beautiful. Thank you, everyone. I think that's everyone who's on the call today. I'll also just do a quick overview. So Damon Peters is Senior Vice President at Bell Bank, commercial lender. Bell Bank is a regional lender. They lend on everything: office, retail, industrial, multifamily, all property types. Jim Ryan is an appraiser with CBRE, a lot of extensive experience. On hotel development, Jay has offered to be the expert there. He's a founder of JR Hospitality. They've built probably the majority of the hotels that have been built in Minneapolis, St. Paul over the last handful of years. So is a great resource there. Let's see, Joanna Hicks is a founder of Element Commercial Real Estate, an expert in everything retail. So investment sales, leasing. Let's see, and last but not least, 2 folks from the multifamily investment sales team at CBRE, Drew Raschel and Will Pulisic. So great experts there to talk about anything multifamily sales.
Hey, Eric, that's actually a good point I meant to bring up. And I don't know if you touched on it at the beginning of this or not, but the debt side of the equation is super tough in this environment. And that is the trickiest thing to commercial real estate right now. I mean, we've got tons of properties that are potentially going back to the lender. We've got people that can't refinance, people that can't get financing on really anything ground up. Super difficult thing for us to fix for. I don't know if Pete has any further thoughts on that, but that is a key component right now, and probably for at least the next 2 years to getting anything done. Financing is just super rough.
Yep. I can add to that a little bit, and certainly welcome phone calls individually, or kind of if people want to be more specific on this. But what has happened in our business and in the commercial real estate world, the development world, and certainly in the investment sale and transactional side of the business, the Fed funds rate went from near zero to into the 4s in a very brief period of time. And the end interest rate to the borrowers went from the mid 3s. We're now seeing quotes in the low 7s. I'm sure you guys have done some of this in class, but what happens there is your debt service cost and your cost of capital increases tremendously, and the rent rates are not there to support the values. So we've seen a massive shift in valuation. There are a lot of very nervous lenders right now, and probably even more so landlords. Many of the calls I'm on all day right now are with lenders, debt funds, institutional lenders who are wondering if they're going to be getting buildings back. And we are trying to coach them on where values might be. A challenge in this market, there have not been a whole lot of transactions that have happened, because if people don't need to sell, they're holding the properties. They're not ready to take a loss on the properties. High level estimates for everybody in this call, we've seen commercial real estate values, and this is office building specific, have moved anywhere from down 10% to down as much as 40 or 50%, depending on the property. In addition to that, there's a number of things that have happened. The work from home element of the COVID, the implications of COVID has impacted it. And then as well as some things that have happened, unfortunately, in the city of Minneapolis that have lowered occupancy to a level that we haven't seen in recent history. So a number of things going on, to piggyback on John Dahl's comment, but tremendous impact and a very quick impact to commercial real estate values. A lot of the experts are saying that most of the pain in our business is going to be at the institutional level, and the commercial mortgage-backed securities and debt fund arenas. So it's an interesting time in our business, no question about it.
All right. Any final questions? All right. Well, hearing none, well, I think this is extremely beneficial. Peter, Chris, all of the experts, thank you for your time and all your color and feedback. And then again, I think we have it in the site packet, but just a reminder, when you're contacting the experts, please try and do it during business hours. I know in years past, we've had some examples. I can't remember. Somebody told me they got a call at like 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock. And we realize all the students have busy schedules, but to the best of your abilities, please try and just contact these folks during business hours.
And we'll follow up in the coming days with a link to this meeting, the video of it, and then a couple follow-up items with the structure report and a couple other things mentioned. So watch for that email in a couple days. All right. No last questions? All right.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Thanks everyone for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.